we drink the blood of Christ. We eat the body, the flesh of Christ. It's shocking. But we don't notice it so much. Like I said, we've gotten used to it. We take it for granted, rather than appreciating what we've got here. And of course, it doesn't look much like flesh and blood either. It looks like bread and wine. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't even look much like bread, does it? I had bread this morning. It didn't look anything like the bread that we have here today. So, what is this all about, this Corpus Christi, this body and blood of Christ? I ask that of little kids, of course. I visit lots of classrooms all the time, every day of every week. And I'll walk into a classroom and say, okay, so how did Jesus choose to stay with us? And somehow they know the answer. This is in communion, in the bread. Jesus stays with us in the bread. Excellent, good job. Now, why bread? Why wine? Why food? Why did Jesus choose to remain with us forever here on earth in food? Wouldn't it have been smarter to pick something like a tree or a rock or a statue or something like that, a hockey puck? I don't know, something else, something more permanent. But no, he chose food. Why food? The answer is because of what we do with food. What do we do with food? And the kids don't seem to get this for some reason. What we do with food is we eat food, right? And then I ask the kids, and what happens when we eat the food? And they say, it goes down into our tummies. Right. And what happens after it goes into our tummies? Then we digest it. Is it right? And what happens after we digest it? And they start to giggle. I realize they've made up their own jokes on this, going in a completely different direction than I had intended. So I said, no, I'm not talking about the bad stuff. I'm talking about the good stuff. What happens to that? So then I say, okay, look at it this way. When I came out of my mom, I was 8 pounds. Congratulations to my mom, right? But now I'm not 8 pounds, now I'm 100 pounds, right? Where did the rest of me come from? And they think about it, oh, from food, that's right. From the food I eat. It goes into me, it gets reconstituted, it turns into bones and flesh and sinews and brains, which is why I hardly have any, because I don't eat the right foods, and it turns into everything that I'm made of. It turns into me. We are what we eat, which means that this is pizza, and this is spaghetti, and this leg is meatloaf, and this is Kraft dinner, and flowing through my veins I have Pepsi, exactly. You guys know me so well. That's right. We are what we eat. And where do we get the energy to do what we do? Also from what we eat. Everything we do is what we eat. So, if what we eat is Jesus, then we are what we eat. Jesus gives us an opportunity to become part of Him, to become ourselves, the body of Christ. And that's why He chose food, so He can enter into us, so He can become part of us. Now, do you believe it? That's a lot to believe. Not going to lie, that God would become food, that He's going to become food in about 15 minutes from now, give or take, that He's going to become food for us on this altar today. That's a lot to believe. And I ask often the kids in the class, especially when I'm in high school, how many of you kids believe that this bread and wine actually is the body and blood of Christ? Maybe 3 or 4 people. Most people are okay with symbolic. Yeah, it's symbolic of, but it isn't Jesus' body and blood. So then I put it to them this way. Okay, look. If God could God turn Himself into bread and wine? The answer, of course, is yeah, God can do anything. So God can turn Himself into bread and wine. So then the next question is, would God turn Himself into bread and wine? Would God make Himself that small, that meek, that vulnerable, that tiny, that gentle, that unscary, that loving. Does God love us that much that he would become food for us? Does God love us that much that he would send his son to die for us? I believe the answer is yes. I see this young lady here also agrees with me. So she and I are going to heaven. The rest of you, I don't know. See, that amazement is the amazement that I had when I was in the 8th grade.